At Morixa Tales, we believe in the power of storytelling. Our scripts weave together deep emotions and dramatic turns to deliver justice where it is most needed. Experience captivating mysteries where the truth eventually shines through, leaving a lasting impact on your heart and mind.
My husband handed me divorce papers at my 35th birthday party. Meanwhile, my children cheered, "Best day ever." I opened the envelope, looked up, and said, "Before I sign, I want to show everyone something." What happened next shocked them beyond words. Thanks for being here. Comment where you're watching from, I'd love to know. Note this story uses creative elements for storytelling, but the lessons about financial independence are real. Now let's see what Emily revealed. There are moments in life that split your world into before and after. November 15th, 2023 was mine. The Brown Palace Hotel, downtown Denver. 80 guests. Crystal chandeliers. My 35th birthday party. I stood near the 3-tier cake I didn't even choose, wearing a navy dress I'd bought specifically for tonight. My husband took the microphone. Andrew Sullivan looked every bit the successful IT manager, tailored suit, confident smile, that easy charm that once made my heart skip. He spoke about our 10 years together, my dedication, how hard I worked. Then his tone shifted. But sometimes people grow in different directions. The room went silent, confused faces everywhere. He pulled a white envelope from his jacket, extended it toward me. "Emily, you deserve freedom." My hands trembled as I opened it. Right there, in front of everyone. Petition for dissolution of marriage, divorce papers. At my own birthday party, gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone dropped a glass, then I heard clapping, young hands applauding. My children, Lucas 13, Ava 10, standing beside their father, smiling like they'd won something. My babies calling this the best day ever, celebrating their parents' divorce like it was Christmas morning. Across the room, Andrew's parents exchanged satisfied glances. Richard nodded slightly. Linda's mouth curved into something that might have been a smile. 80 witnesses. 80 people watching my carefully constructed life shatter in real time. I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. For one moment, I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. This was supposed to be a celebration. But then something clicked into place. A strange calm washed over me. Because standing there, holding those papers, I realized something they didn't know. This wasn't my ending, it was theirs. I smiled, not my usual apologetic smile, a real one. "You're absolutely right," I said quietly. "This is what's best." The confusion on Andrew's face was almost beautiful. This wasn't the reaction he'd expected. I smiled because they had no idea what was coming, because I held all the cards. I always had. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back to where this really started, back to the woman they thought they knew. The quiet one. The simple lab tech who supposedly never wanted more. They had no idea who I really was. 10 years earlier. 2013. I was 25, hopeful, and foolish enough to believe in happily ever after. My name is Emily Carter, and I'm a medical lab technician at University Hospital, Denver. It's not glamorous work. I spend my days in a windowless lab analyzing blood samples, running cultures, processing tests that help doctors diagnose everything from strep throat to leukemia. The fluorescent lights hum overhead. The machines beep their rhythms. Most people don't think about the lab, but every result that comes back, every diagnosis that saves a life, someone like me made that happen. I earned $68,000 a year. Not rich. Not poor, enough to pay my bills, save a little, live modestly. In May of 2013, I married Andrew Sullivan. He was an IT project manager making $115,000 a year, nearly double my salary. He had the corner office, the business casual wardrobe, the confident handshake. When he proposed, I thought I was the luckiest woman alive. We bought a house in Cherry Creek, one of Denver's nicer neighborhoods. Tree-lined streets, good schools, the kind of place where people jog with expensive strollers and drink their coffee on front porches. From the outside, we looked perfect. The successful young professional and his dedicated wife. The American dream in a 3-bedroom colonial with a 2-car garage. October 2013, our son Lucas was born. I held him in that delivery room and made promises I intended to keep. 3 years later, in 2016, came Ava. 2 beautiful children with Andrew's eyes and my stubborn chin. If you'd asked me then, I would have said I had everything. I just didn't realize how quickly everything could turn into not enough. The erosion started slowly, so slowly, I barely noticed it happening. 2014, our first dinner at Andrew's parents' house in Highlands Ranch. Richard and Linda Sullivan lived in one of those sprawling ranch-style homes with mountain views, the kind of place that screamed old money and careful investments. Linda had set the dining table with china that probably cost more than my monthly salary. "So, Emily," Linda said as she passed the roasted vegetables, "Andrew tells us you work at the hospital." I smiled, ready to explain what I did. Before I could answer, she continued, "This is Andrew's wife, everyone. She works at a hospital. Not a doctor, not a nurse, not even a technician. Just works there like I cleaned bedpans or filed paperwork in some forgotten basement office." Richard leaned back in his chair, swirling his wine. "A lab technician, right, not even a nurse." The word even hung in the air like an accusation. "I enjoy my work," I said carefully. "Lab science is—" "Have you thought about going back to school?" Richard interrupted. "Nursing would be a natural next step. Better pay, more prestige." Prestige. As if my job lacked dignity because it didn't come with a title people recognized at cocktail parties. I looked at Andrew, waiting for him to say something to defend me, to explain that lab technicians require specialized training, that we're the backbone of diagnostic medicine, that doctors can't do their jobs without us. Instead, he shrugged. "She's happy with what she does. Not she's excellent at her job. Not she's passionate about her work. Just she's happy like I was a child content with a simple toy while the adults discussed important matters. That dinner set the pattern for the next 10 years. The comments became routine, constant, casual cruelty disguised as concern. At neighborhood barbecues, Linda would introduce me the same way every time. Andrew's wife. She works at the hospital. Never my name first, never my actual job title. Just Andrew's wife, as if my entire identity existed in relation to him. Family dinners became exercises in invisibility. Richard would hold court at the head of the table, praising Andrew's latest promotion. His impressive salary increases his career trajectory. I'd sit quietly cutting Ava's food, wiping Lucas's face while the conversation flowed around me like I was a rock in a river, present, but irrelevant. The kids absorbed it all. Children are like sponges. They soak up every attitude, every dismissal, every subtle message about who matters and who doesn't. Lucas learned early to be vague about my work. When his middle school friends asked what his mom did, he'd mumble, "She works in healthcare." Never specific, never proud. Just healthcare, a word so broad it could mean anything from surgeon to receptionist. I asked him once why he didn't just say I was a lab technician. He looked uncomfortable, shifted his backpack, wouldn't meet my eyes. "It's just easier this way, Mom." Easier because the truth was somehow complicated, because admitting what I did for a living required explanation or apology. Ava was more direct in her rejection. 3rd grade career day at school. Every kid was supposed to bring a parent to talk about their job. She brought Andrew. When I asked why she hadn't invited me, she studied her shoes. "Dad's job is more interesting." "My job is interesting too," I said gently. "I help doctors figure out. Dad gets to talk about computers and projects and stuff. You just look at blood." Just. That word carried so much weight. I tried not to let it hurt, tried to tell myself she was young, she didn't understand. But 8-year-olds understand more than we give them credit for. She understood that Grandma and Grandpa never asked about my work. She understood that dinner table conversations revolved around Dad's success. She understood the hierarchy, and she didn't want to be associated with the bottom rung. By the time Lucas hit middle school, the pattern was set. At birthday parties for his friends, he'd introduce me quickly, "This is my mom," then pivot immediately to talking about Andrew's job in IT management, always steering conversations away from me. always making sure people knew his father was successful as if that success could cover whatever shame they felt about me. I became a ghost in my own life, present but unseen. The woman who packed the lunches and signed the permission slips and showed up to parent-teacher conferences, but somehow never quite measured up to the other moms. The ones who were nurses or teachers or stay-at-home mothers who volunteered on every committee. At Thanksgiving, I'd sit at the far end of Linda's long table while she toasted Andrew's accomplishments. At Christmas, I'd help clear dishes while Richard held court about his son's brilliant career moves. At summer barbecues, Andrew's colleagues would cluster around him, asking about his latest project, while I refilled chip bowls and pretended not to notice their eyes sliding past me like I was furniture. Minimize, diminish, dismiss. That was the pattern for 10 years, and I let it happen. But here's what they never understood. I never fought back, never defended myself, never corrected their assumptions or demanded the respect I deserved. They thought my silence meant defeat, thought my simplicity meant I was simple-minded, thought quiet meant weak, passive meant powerless. They were wrong on every count. I was quiet because I was protecting something precious, something that if they knew about it would change, everything would give them power over me, that I wasn't willing to surrender. I learned to be invisible because being invisible gave me freedom. Freedom to build something in the shadows. Freedom to become someone they'd never see coming. While Richard and Linda wrote me off as just a lab tech, I was learning. While Andrew stopped defending me at family dinners, I was planning. While my children learned to be ashamed of their mother, I was constructing a foundation they couldn't begin to comprehend. They thought they knew me, the quiet wife who never made waves. The simple mother who was content with her modest job, the woman without ambition or dreams beyond her small corner of the world. They saw what they wanted to see, what they expected to see. They had no idea who I really was, what I was capable of, what I'd been building while they dismissed me. In 2008, when I was just 21 years old, my grandparents passed away, and they left me $300,000. I never told anyone. Not Andrew when we started dating again, not his parents when they looked down their noses at me, not even my own children as they grew up thinking their mother was ordinary. That secret would become the foundation of everything. September 2008. I was 21 years old working my first real job as a lab assistant making $32,000 a year. I lived in a studio apartment in Capitol Hill, ate ramen 3 nights a week and thought I was doing okay. Then my grandparents died. Grandma first, then Grandpa, 2 weeks later. Everyone said he died of a broken heart. 3 weeks after the funeral, I got a call from an attorney named Mr. Harrison. He asked me to come to his office downtown. I thought maybe there was a problem with the estate. I wore my only dress pants and drove my beat-up Honda Civic to a building with marble floors and a receptionist who looked like she earned more than I did. Mr. Harrison was kind. He offered me coffee, asked how I was holding up. Then he opened a folder and slid a document across his mahogany desk. "Your grandparents established a trust fund for you," he said. $300,000. I stared at the number. My hands went numb. "There's one condition," Mr. Harrison continued. He looked uncomfortable. "You cannot disclose this inheritance to Andrew Sullivan." Andrew, my boyfriend. We'd been together 2 years. "Your grandmother was very clear," Mr. Harrison said gently. "She said, and I quote, 'That young man is materialistic and status-driven. We want to protect Emily.'" My throat tightened. What if I tell him anyway? "Then you forfeit the inheritance. It goes to charity." I sat there for a long time. The clock on the wall ticked. Outside, Denver traffic hummed. "Okay," I finally said. "I accept. Mr. Harrison helped me open a separate bank account, one Andrew would never see. 2 years later, Andrew and I broke up. In 2010, we reconnected. We fell in love again, or I thought we did. In May 2013, we got married. I never told him about the money. At first, it was to honor my grandparents. Later, it was because I realized they'd been right about him all along. I had $300,000. I was 21 years old. I knew nothing about investing, but I was determined to learn. because money, I realized, wasn't just about buying things. It was about freedom, and I wanted to be free. 2010. I started my education. Not in a classroom, in books, YouTube videos, and online forums. I was 23 years old. I had $300,000 sitting in a bank account earning almost nothing. I knew if I didn't learn fast, I'd waste the gift my grandparents gave me. So I read. I read everything. The Intelligent Investor by Benjamin Graham. Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. A Random Walk Down Wall Street by Burton Malkiel. I highlighted passages. I took notes. I joined Reddit threads about personal finance and investing. I watched hours of videos on compound interest asset allocation and dollar cost averaging. The concepts felt foreign at first. P/E ratios, expense ratios, diversification. But slowly I started to understand. Money wasn't magic. It was math. And I'd always been good at math. I made mistakes early on. I bought individual stocks because someone on a forum said they were guaranteed winners. I lost $3,000 in 2 weeks. I panicked. I sold everything at a loss. That night, I sat at my kitchen table and cried. Not because of the money, I still had plenty, but because I felt stupid. Like maybe everyone was right. Maybe I was just a lab tech who didn't belong in this world. But then I remembered my grandmother's words, the ones Mr. Harrison had shared. We want to protect Emily. Not because I was weak, but because I was worth protecting. I dried my tears. I went back to my books. I learned about risk management, about not putting all your eggs in one basket, about the difference between investing and gambling. In early 2011, I made my first real investment, $50,000 into an S&P 500 index fund. My hands shook as I clicked, confirm. What if I lost it all? What if my grandparents had been wrong to trust me? But the market was in a bull run. By the end of 2011, my portfolio had grown to $62,000. I'd made $12,000 by doing essentially nothing but waiting. I was hooked. Then in 2012, I heard about Bitcoin. I was browsing a tech forum late one night while Andrew slept beside me. Someone posted about this new digital currency that could be sent anywhere in the world without banks or governments. The price was $10 per coin. The comments were brutal. Scam. Tulip mania. You'll lose everything. Only idiots invest in fake internet money. But something about it fascinated me. The technology. The idea of financial freedom outside traditional systems. I spent 2 weeks researching. I read Satoshi Nakamoto's white paper 3 times. I joined Bitcoin forums. I tried to understand blockchain mining decentralization. The more I learned, the more convinced I became. This wasn't a scam. This was a revolution. Finally, in November 2012, I invested $2,000, 200 Bitcoin. Andrew noticed the withdrawal. "What are you doing with our savings?" he asked one morning over coffee. Our savings. He always said our, even though this was mine. Money I'd inherited before we even got back together. "Just putting some away for our future," I said vaguely. "Retirement planning." He nodded satisfied and went back to his phone. He didn't ask details. He never did. In his mind, I was too financially unsophisticated to do anything risky. May 2013. We got married at a small ceremony in Boulder. My portfolio was worth $400,000. Andrew had no idea. On our wedding night, he toasted, "To building our future together." I smiled. I clinked my glass. I kept my secrets. October 2013. Lucas was born. I held my son in the hospital, his tiny fingers wrapped around mine, and thought about the world I wanted to build for him. A world where he'd never feel small, never feel invisible. I kept investing. I added tech stocks, Apple, Google, Amazon, companies I believed in, companies that were changing the world. Every overtime shift at the hospital meant more money to invest. I'd work double shifts on weekends. I'd come home exhausted, kiss my sleeping son, and transfer another $500 into my brokerage account. I lived on my salary. Every dollar of gains went back into investments. Andrew thought I was saving a little in my 401k. He'd pat my hand at dinner parties when his parents asked about our finances. Emily's good about putting away a few bucks here and there. Every bit helps, right? His parents would smile indulgently. Linda once said, "That's sweet. It's good to have a little nest egg for emergencies." A little nest egg. I had $500,000. I said nothing. By 2016, when Ava was born, my portfolio had reached $800,000. I held my daughter in the same hospital where I'd held Lucas 3 years earlier. I whispered, "You're going to have choices, baby girl. So many choices." Andrew stood beside me, holding Lucas's hand. "She's beautiful," he said, "just like her mom." He kissed my forehead. He had no idea who I really was. Then came 2017. Bitcoin exploded from $1,000 per coin in January to nearly $20,000 by December. My phone lit up with price alerts constantly. I watched my net worth climb by thousands of dollars every single day. I couldn't tell anyone. I couldn't celebrate. I'd lie awake at night, Andrew snoring beside me, watching the numbers on my phone climb higher and higher. By October, Bitcoin had hit $15,000. My 200 coins were worth $3 million. Combined with my other investments, I was worth nearly $4 million. But I'd learned my lesson from those early mistakes. I didn't get greedy. In late October and throughout November, I systematically sold half my Bitcoin. 50 coins at $15,000, 50 coins at $17,000, the last 50 at $18,000. I locked in profits of $1.5 million. My total portfolio, $2.3 million. I was a millionaire twice over. My husband made $115,000 a year and thought he was the provider. I made $68,000 a year and had quietly earned more in 1 year than he would in a decade. But money couldn't fix what was breaking in my marriage. Andrew had started staying late at work. "Big project," he'd say. You know how it is. He'd come home with explanations that didn't quite add up. Late meetings that ran past midnight. Client dinners that lasted until 2 in the morning. He'd look at me across the dinner table like I was a stranger. Or worse, like I was furniture. Something useful, but uninteresting. Lucas and Ava had started repeating things they heard from their grandparents. "Dad works so hard to take care of us. Dad's job is so important. Mom just does tests at the hospital." Just. That word cut deeper every time. I was invisible in my own home. The woman who served dinner, who did laundry, who made $68,000 a year at her little job. But I was building something they couldn't see, something that would change everything. I just didn't know how soon. 2018, the year I realized I was married to a stranger. Andrew started staying late at the office. 4, sometimes 5 nights a week. Big project. He'd say, kissing my forehead on his way out the door at 7 in the morning. "Don't wait up." I'd nod. I'd pack his lunch. I'd watch him leave. Then I'd get Lucas ready for kindergarten, drop him at school, work my shift at the lab, pick up Lucas, pick up Ava from daycare, make dinner, help with homework, give baths, read bedtime stories, and collapse into bed around 10. Andrew would come home around 11. He'd heat up leftovers. He'd shower. He'd slip into bed without a word. "Why doesn't Daddy come home?" Lucas asked one night at dinner. He was 5 years old, his little face scrunched with confusion. "Daddy has important work," I said, forcing a smile. "He's helping a lot of people." "More important than us." I didn't have an answer for that. On weekends, Andrew played golf. "Clients," he'd explain. "You know how it is. Got to network." I'd spend Saturdays at the park with Lucas and Ava. We'd feed the ducks at Washington Park. We'd get ice cream. I'd watch other families, fathers pushing strollers, couples holding hands, and feel a hollowness in my chest. In October 2018, I suggested marriage counseling. Andrew laughed. Actually laughed. "Counseling, Em, we're fine. You're just stressed. Maybe you should cut back on your hours." Cut back on my hours. Like my job was the problem. Like I was the problem. I stopped asking. By 2019, we were living parallel lives. He had his world. I had mine. We passed each other in the hallway like roommates. Then came 2020. COVID-19 hit in March. The world shut down. But I was an essential worker. I kept going to the lab every day, processing tests, watching the numbers climb. Andrew worked from home. He'd sit at the dining room table on Zoom calls complaining about how exhausting it was to work from his laptop. I'd work 10-hour shifts, come home, cook dinner, clean the house, help Lucas with virtual school rock Ava to sleep when she had nightmares. One night in July, I was doing dishes at 11 p.m. Andrew walked into the kitchen. "You okay?" he asked. "Tired," I said. "Yeah, me too. Work's been brutal, so much pressure." I looked at him. He had no idea. No idea what it was like to face a pandemic on the front lines. No idea what it was like to carry a family alone. "Sure," I said quietly. I turned back to the dishes. He went back to his Netflix show. I stopped trying to explain. I stopped trying to connect. I went silent. But I didn't stop building. When the stock market crashed in March 2020, I invested $200,000. Blue chip stocks at bargain prices. I bought when there was blood in the streets. Andrew never noticed. He assumed I was just saving a little. By December 2020, my portfolio had recovered. I was back over $2 million. Then came 2021. Bitcoin hit $60,000 per coin. My remaining 100 Bitcoin were worth $6 million. I sold 30 coins at $55,000, $1.6 million in profits. I diversified heavily into dividend stocks, Coca-Cola, Johnson & Johnson, Procter & Gamble, companies that paid me every quarter just for holding their shares. By September 2021, my portfolio had reached $2.5 million. It generated roughly $15,000 a month in passive income, more than Andrew's monthly salary. I was financially independent at 33 years old. I could retire. I could walk away. But I stayed. For the kids, I told myself. Lucas was 8, Ava was 5. They needed stability. But that wasn't the whole truth. I was waiting to see if my grandparents had been wrong about Andrew, waiting for him to prove he was the man I'd fallen in love with. In May 2021, Andrew got promoted to Senior IT Project Manager. His salary jumped to $135,000. He took his parents out to dinner to celebrate. He posted about it on LinkedIn. Grateful for this opportunity. Hard work pays off. He didn't mention me once. At the celebration dinner, Richard raised his glass. To my son. "Always knew you'd make it big." Linda beamed. "We're so proud of you, Andrew." I sat at the end of the table. Lucas spilled juice on my lap. Ava asked when we could go home. Nobody asked about my day. Nobody saw me at all. I smiled. I clapped. I went home and checked my brokerage account. $2.5 million. I was worth 19 times my husband's annual salary, and nobody knew. That summer, Andrew started coming home even later. He'd shower immediately. He'd check his phone constantly and angle the screen away from me. One night in late July, his phone buzzed on the bathroom counter while he was in the shower. A text message from someone named Brittany. "Can't wait to see you tomorrow. Last night was amazing." My hands went numb. I took a photo of the screen. I walked out. I sat on our bed, and I waited. The next day, Andrew didn't come home. "Work trip," he texted. "Back Friday." I went into our home office. I opened his laptop. His passwords were saved. I'd set up the computer years ago. I found months of messages, photos, hotel receipts, dinner reservations. Brittany Stevens, 28 years old, sales associate at his company, blonde, beautiful. The messages went back to 2019, 2 years of lies. I sat in that office until 3 a.m. reading every word. Every moment he'd chosen her over me while I was raising his children, working through a pandemic, building a life he knew nothing about. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I felt clarity. My grandparents had been right. Andrew wasn't a partner. He was a user. He wanted a wife who stayed small so he could feel big. I wasn't going to be small anymore. I closed the laptop. When Andrew came home Friday night with flowers and apologies about the intense work week, I smiled. "Welcome home," I said. He had no idea what was coming. But I did. June 17th, 2022, the day I stopped lying to myself. Andrew left his phone on the kitchen counter. He was in the shower getting ready for another late meeting. I was wiping down the counters after dinner when the screen lit up. A text notification from Brittany S. "Can't wait to see you tonight." My breath stopped. My hands froze on the dishcloth. I picked up his phone. My fingers moved automatically, typing in the passcode. Our anniversary. How ironic. The phone unlocked. I opened the messages. 2 years of conversations. Maybe more. I scrolled and scrolled, watching my marriage dissolve into pixels and lies. "Your wife doesn't understand you. You deserve someone on your level. I can't believe you're stuck with her." Photos. Dinner dates at restaurants I'd never been to. Hotel rooms with rumpled sheets, her hand on his chest, his lips on her neck. My vision blurred. The phone slipped from my hands onto the counter. I walked to the bathroom. I locked the door. I sat on the floor, my back against the cold tile, and let myself break. Silently. So the kids wouldn't hear. I wasn't shocked. I'd known for a year. But seeing it, reading those words, seeing those photos, it destroyed something inside me anyway. The shower turned off. Andrew was humming. Actually humming. I stood up. I washed my face. I looked at myself in the mirror. My eyes were red, but I could fix that. I splashed cold water. I took deep breaths. I walked out of the bathroom. "You okay?" Andrew asked, toweling his hair. "Fine," I said. "Just tired." Lucas called from his room. "Mom, can you help me with my Lego set?" "Coming, sweetie," I called back. I smiled at my son. "Mom's here." That night, Andrew kissed me goodbye at 8 p.m. "Late client meeting. Don't wait up. Drive safe," I said. He had no idea I knew where he was really going. He left. I put the kids to bed. I read them stories. I tucked them in. I told them I loved them. Then I sat at the kitchen table with my laptop and made a decision. I wasn't going to confront him, not yet. My grandfather used to say, "Information is more valuable than confrontation." He'd been a prosecutor for 30 years. He knew how to build a case. So did I. I opened a new folder on my laptop. I titled it Evidence. I downloaded every text message from Andrew's phone to mine. I forwarded every photo. I documented every late night, every work trip, every lie. Then I started researching Brittany Stevens. LinkedIn showed she worked in sales at Andrew's company. Started in 2019. Same year the affair began. 28 years old. University of Colorado graduate. She'd posted photos from company events, including several with Andrew. I saved everything. The next morning, I called my best friend, Amanda. We'd known each other since college. She was a social worker, tough as nails, and the only person I trusted completely. "I need help," I said quietly. "What's wrong?" "Andrew's having an affair." Silence. Then, "I'm coming over." She arrived 20 minutes later with coffee and a notebook. "Tell me everything," she said. I showed her the messages, the photos, the timeline. Amanda's jaw tightened. "Okay, what do you want to do?" "I need a private investigator and a divorce lawyer." She nodded. "I know people. Give me 24 hours. By the end of the week, I'd hired a private investigator named Tom Brown. Former Denver PD, retired, now ran a discreet investigative firm. "I need documentation," I told him. "Photos, videos, proof of the affair." "How long has it been going on?" he asked. 2 years, maybe longer. He whistled low. "I'll have everything you need within a month." Then Amanda introduced me to Marcus Green. Marcus Green was the best divorce attorney in Denver. 50s, silver hair, sharp suit, sharper mind. He'd handled high-profile divorces, complex asset divisions, and he had a reputation for protecting his clients ruthlessly. We met at his office in downtown Denver, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. "Tell me about your situation, Mrs. Sullivan," he said. "My husband is having an affair. I have evidence. I want a divorce." He took notes. "Children. 2. Lucas is 9. Ava is 6. Assets." I hesitated. This was the moment I'd reveal what I'd kept hidden for 14 years. My husband makes $135,000 a year. He thinks we have about $30,000 in joint savings and some retirement accounts. Marcus nodded, writing. And what do you actually have? I took a breath. I have a separate investment portfolio, inheritance from my grandparents before the marriage. It's grown significantly. How significantly? $2.5 million. His pen stopped. He looked up at me. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? $2.5 million. All in my name. All premarital inheritance that I invested over the past 14 years. He doesn't know about it. Marcus leaned back in his chair. A slow smile spread across his face. Mrs. Sullivan, you're going to be just fine. Over the next 3 months, I built my case. Tom Brown followed Andrew and Brittany. He photographed them at restaurants, at her apartment, entering hotels, kissing in parking garages. He documented dates, times, locations. I gathered financial records, joint accounts, Andrew's spending patterns, charges at jewelry stores, flowers sent to her address, not mine. I collected witness statements, a co-worker who'd seen them together, a hotel clerk who recognized Andrew's photo. I met with Marcus weekly. We built a strategy. Colorado was an equitable distribution state. Assets acquired during marriage were split fairly, but assets acquired before marriage, like my inheritance, remained mine. He has no claim to your portfolio, Marcus confirmed. Not a cent. What about the house? Our joint accounts. Those will be split, but your investment accounts, untouchable. I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Power. In September 2022, Tom Brown handed me a file 3 inches thick. Photos, videos, timelines. Irrefutable proof of Andrew's affair with Brittany Stevens. He's not even trying to hide it anymore, Tom said. I looked through the photos. Andrew's hand on her waist, her head on his shoulder. Them laughing together, the way he used to look at me, before I became invisible. I closed the file. Thank you, Tom. This is perfect. Marcus reviewed everything. This is airtight. When do you want to file? I thought about it. Lucas's birthday was in October. Thanksgiving was in November. November 15th, I said. My birthday. We're having a party at the Brown Palace Hotel. His parents will be there. Our friends. His colleagues. Marcus raised an eyebrow. You want to serve him at your birthday party. I want him to know what it feels like. To be humiliated in front of everyone. The way he humiliated me for years. Marcus smiled. Not kindly. Like a shark sensing blood. I'll prepare the papers. I walked out of his office into the bright Denver afternoon. For the first time in 4 years, I felt alive. Andrew thought he was in control. Thought I was the quiet little lab tech who'd never fight back. He had no idea who I really was, but he was about to find out. Fall 2022. While I was building my legal case, Andrew was building something else, a narrative. Every weekend, he'd take Lucas and Ava to his parents' house in Highlands Ranch. Give you a break, he'd say, like he was doing me a favor. I didn't realize what was happening until Lucas came home one Sunday in October. Mom, why don't you have a better job? He asked. He was 9 years old, holding his backpack, looking at me with confusion. My heart stopped. What do you mean, honey? Grandpa Richard says Dad has an important job. He makes a lot of money. But you just work at a hospital doing tests, just. That word again. I'm a medical lab technician, I said carefully. I help doctors diagnose diseases. It's important work. Lucas shrugged. Grandpa says it's not a career. It's just a job. I felt something crack inside my chest. It got worse. By December, Ava stopped inviting me to school events. When I asked why, she said, Grandma Linda says you don't really understand important things. She says Dad is the one who takes care of us. I was standing in our kitchen when she said it. My 6-year-old daughter, looking at me like I was less than. Ava, that's not true, I said softly. I take care of you every day. But Dad makes the money, she said matter-of-factly. That's what Grandma says. Money is what matters. She skipped away to her room. I stood there frozen, feeling my heart shatter into pieces I didn't know how to put back together. I called Amanda that night. They're turning my kids against me, I said. My voice broke. They're making Lucas and Ava think I'm worthless. Emily, they don't know the truth. When this is over, they will. What if they hate me? They won't. Kids are smarter than we think. They'll understand. But I wasn't sure. Late at night, I'd lie awake wondering if I was doing the right thing, if I should just tell Andrew everything, stop the divorce, keep the family together. Then I'd remember the text messages, the hotel photos, the way he looked at Brittany, the way he never looked at me anymore. No, I was done being invisible. In January 2023, I met with Diane Walsh, a financial advisor Amanda recommended. Diane specialized in helping women prepare for divorce, especially women with hidden assets. We met at a quiet coffee shop in Cherry Creek. "Tell me about your portfolio," Diane said. I walked her through everything. The inheritance, the investments, Bitcoin, the dividend stocks. "Current value," she asked. $2.5 million, give or take. Diane's eyes widened slightly, but she remained professional. "And your husband doesn't know?" "Not a clue." She nodded slowly. "Okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to optimize this for maximum passive income. By the time you file for divorce, I want you financially untouchable." Over the next 6 months, Diane restructured my entire portfolio. We sold underperforming assets. We bought more dividend aristocrats companies that had increased dividends for 25 consecutive years or more. We optimized my crypto holdings for staking rewards. We added covered call strategies on my blue chip stocks for extra income. By August 2023, my portfolio had grown to $3.2 million, and it was generating $18,000 a month in passive income, $216,000 a year, more than Andrew's entire salary. "You're set," Diane said at our final meeting. "You could quit your job tomorrow and live comfortably for the rest of your life." "I'm not quitting," I said. "Not yet. I want them to see me walk away on my terms." Diane smiled. "You're going to be fine, Emily, better than fine." September rolled into October. The party was planned for November 15th at the Brown Palace Hotel. Andrew thought it was his idea, a big celebration for my 35th birthday. He had no idea what I'd planned. Then on November 1st, 2 weeks before the party, Andrew came home late, again. I was reading in bed when he walked in. "We need to talk," he said. I looked up. "Okay." He sat on the edge of the bed. He looked nervous. "Good." "Emily, I'm not happy. I haven't been happy for a long time." I said nothing. "I think we should get a divorce." There it was, the words I'd been waiting for. "Okay," I said calmly. He blinked. "Okay, that's it." "What do you want me to say, Andrew? You've been distant for years. If you want a divorce, then let's get a divorce." He relaxed slightly. This was going easier than he'd expected. "I want to do it at your birthday party," he said. I stared at him. "What, the party, November 15th? I'm going to announce it there, in front of everyone." My blood went cold. "You want to humiliate me at my own birthday party?" He had the audacity to look self-righteous. "You've held me back for years, Emily. You're content with your little life, your little job. I deserve more. I want everyone to know I'm done settling." I felt rage rise in my throat, but I swallowed it down. "Fine," I said quietly, "if that's what you want." He looked surprised. "Really, you're okay with it?" I smiled, a small cold smile. "Do whatever you want, Andrew." He stood up. "Good. I'm glad you're being reasonable about this." He left the room. I heard him on the phone in his office, his voice low, probably calling Brittany, telling her the good news. I sat in bed, my heart pounding. He had no idea what he'd just done. He'd just given me everything I needed. He was going to humiliate me in public, which meant I could respond in kind, and I had 2 weeks to make it perfect. The next morning, I called Marcus Green. "He wants to serve me at the party," I said. "November 15th, in front of 80 people. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he laughed. Actually laughed. "This is perfect. Let him go first. Let him think he's in control. Then we drop the hammer." "What do I need to do?" "Nothing. Just let me handle the paperwork. I'll have everything ready. When he serves you those papers, you'll have a surprise waiting for him." Over the next 2 weeks, everything fell into place. Tom Brown delivered the final surveillance report, dozens of photos, video footage, timeline documentation, proof of Andrew's affair spanning nearly 3 years. Marcus prepared 2 sets of documents, the response to Andrew's divorce petition, and the full financial disclosure including my $3.2 million portfolio. Diane Walsh sent me a final portfolio statement, $3,247,832.19, generating $18,000 a month. I was richer than Andrew would ever be. On November 13th, 2 days before the party, I went shopping. I bought a dress, navy blue, elegant form-fitting. The most expensive dress I'd ever owned. I bought heels. I got my hair done, my nails done. I looked in the mirror and saw someone I didn't recognize. Someone strong, someone powerful, someone who was done being invisible. November 14th, the night before the party. I tucked Lucas and Ava into bed. I kissed their foreheads. They barely looked at me. They were excited about the party tomorrow, excited to see their dad finally stand up for himself. That's what they'd been told. I went to my room. I laid out my dress. I reviewed Marcus's documents one final time. I thought about my grandparents, about the $300,000 they'd left me, about the trust they'd placed in me. I hope I made you proud, I whispered. Then I went to sleep. Tomorrow, Andrew Sullivan would serve me divorce papers in front of 80 people. He'd humiliate me. He'd tell everyone I was holding him back. And then I'd show everyone who I really was. I had 2 weeks to prepare, 2 weeks to make everything perfect. Marcus confirmed the portfolio was 100% mine, separate property, acquired before and outside the marriage. Andrew had no claim to a single dollar. Tomorrow they'd all know the truth. Tomorrow the invisible woman would become unforgettable. November 1st through 14th, 14 days to prepare for war. The morning after Andrew told me he'd serve me divorce papers at my own birthday party, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of coffee and made a list. Legal preparation, financial preparation, personal preparation. I called Marcus Green at 9 a.m. sharp. He's going to do it, I said. November 15th at the Brown Palace in front of 80 guests. Perfect, Marcus said. His voice had that edge of anticipation, like a chess player watching his opponent walk into checkmate. Let's make sure we're ready. We met at his office that afternoon. He spread documents across his mahogany desk. I've reviewed everything, he said. Tom Brown's surveillance reports, text messages, photos, financial records showing Andrew's spending on Brittany, hotel charges, jewelry purchases, restaurant receipts. We have 3 years of documented adultery. He slid another folder toward me. And I've reviewed your financial documentation going back 15 years. Every bank statement, every brokerage statement, every transaction. And it's airtight. The $300,000 inheritance came to you in 2008, 5 years before you married Andrew. You kept it in a completely separate account. Every investment, every gain, every dividend, all separate. Under Colorado law, this is separate property, premarital assets that were never commingled with marital funds. He can't claim any of it, not a penny. He'll get half the house equity, about $40,000. Half the joint savings, about $15,000. That's it. I felt a weight lift off my chest. What about the kids? Joint custody, most likely. But given the evidence of his affair and his willingness to humiliate you publicly, we can argue for primary custody. Marcus leaned forward. Emily, when he serves you those papers tomorrow night, don't react. Don't cry. Don't argue. Just smile. Then when he's finished, you hand him this. He held up a thick manila envelope. Our response. Full financial disclosure, documentation of his affair, and a counter-petition for divorce on grounds of adultery. I took the envelope. It was heavy, substantial. Thank you, Marcus. My pleasure. This is going to be the most satisfying case I've handled in years. The next day, I met with Diane Walsh at her office in Cherry Creek. I need an official statement, I said. Something I can show people. Proof of what I've built. Diane nodded. She handed me a bound portfolio report. Official letterhead, charts, graphs. Account statements, portfolio summary, Emily Carter. As of November 10th, 2023, total assets $3,247,832.19. Asset allocation dividend stocks and index funds $1,523,441. 82. Cryptocurrency holdings $1,015,290.37 growth stocks and options $709,100.00. Annual passive income $216,000. Monthly passive income $18,000. I stared at the numbers. Seeing them printed officially made them real in a way they hadn't been before. "This is incredible," I whispered. "You did this," Diane said firmly. "You started with 300,000 and turned it into over 3 million in 15 years. Most professional investors would kill for those returns." I took the portfolio home and hid it in my car. Tomorrow night I'd bring it to the party. The days blurred together. I went through the motions. I made breakfast. I went to work. I picked up the kids. I made dinner. Andrew barely spoke to me. He was planning his big moment. I could see it in his eyes. The anticipation. The cruelty. He thought he was going to destroy me. At night, after the kids were asleep, I practiced. I stood in front of my bathroom mirror and practiced what I'd say, how I'd stand, what my face would look like. Not angry, not broken. Calm, controlled, powerful. I practiced my lines, over and over. I inherited $300,000 15 years ago. I invested it. I grew it. And I never told you because my grandparents saw what I couldn't see. I said it 20 times, 30, until the words felt natural, until I could say them without my voice shaking. On November 13th, 2 days before the party, I did something I'd never done before. I called in sick to work. I spent the day alone. I went to a spa. I got a massage. I got my nails done in deep burgundy red. I got my hair professionally styled. I went shopping downtown. I tried on a dozen dresses before I found the one. Navy blue, elegant, form-fitting but not flashy. It made me look strong, confident. I bought heels to match. Simple, classic, expensive. On my way home, I stopped at a jewelry store. I bought myself a necklace. A simple silver pendant, paid for with my money, my success. November 14th, the night before. Andrew took Lucas and Ava to his parents' house for the night, "so we can focus on setup tomorrow," he said. Translation, so they wouldn't see me pack. After they left, I walked through our house in Cherry Creek, the house we'd bought together in 2015, the house where I'd raised my children, the house where I'd been invisible for 8 years. I packed a suitcase, clothes, documents, photos of the kids, my laptop. I packed slowly, deliberately. Each item felt like closure. I wasn't coming back here. After tomorrow, I'd stay with Amanda until I found my own place. I stood in Lucas's room. I looked at his Lego sets, his soccer trophies, his drawings on the wall. I stood in Ava's room. I looked at her stuffed animals, her art supplies, her princess dresses, my babies, who'd been taught to look down on me, who thought I was worthless. Tomorrow they'd learn the truth, and I didn't know if they'd forgive me for keeping it secret. But I'd kept it secret to protect myself, to survive. I went to bed at 11. I didn't sleep much. I kept thinking about my grandparents, about the lawyer's office in 2008, about the choice they'd given me. Take the money and keep it secret, or walk away. I'd chosen to take it, to trust them, to protect myself. And now, 15 years later, that choice was about to save my life. November 15th, 2023, my 35th birthday. I woke up at 6 a.m. The house was silent, empty. Andrew had stayed at a hotel the night before. "To give you space before the party," he'd said. "To be with Brittany, more likely." I showered. I did my makeup carefully, not too much, just enough to look polished, strong. I put on the navy blue dress, the heels, the silver necklace. I stood in front of the mirror and looked at myself. I didn't see the invisible lab tech anymore. I didn't see the woman who'd been erased bit by bit over 8 years. I saw a woman who'd built $3.2 million in secret. A woman who'd survived betrayal and humiliation. A woman who was about to take back her power. I picked up Marcus's envelope. I picked up Diane's portfolio report. I walked to my car. Tonight at the Brown Palace Hotel in front of 80 people, my husband would try to destroy me, and I would show him exactly who he'd underestimated. Tonight, the silence would end. November 15th, 2023, 7 p.m., the Brown Palace Hotel. I arrived alone. Andrew had texted earlier, "I'll meet you there. Want to make sure everything's set up perfectly." In other words, he wanted to position his audience before I arrived. I handed my keys to the valet. I walked through the gold-trimmed doors into the lobby. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, the kind of elegance that made you feel like you were stepping into another century. I took the elevator to the ballroom on the 3rd floor. The doors opened. 80 people turned to look at me. I saw my coworkers from the hospital. I saw Andrew's colleagues from his IT company. I saw neighbors from Cherry Creek. I saw Richard and Linda Sullivan standing near the front, dressed like they were attending a coronation. I saw Lucas and Ava sitting at a table near the stage looking uncomfortable in their dress clothes. And I saw Andrew, standing near the microphone, wearing his best suit, smiling at me like he loved me. He walked over. He kissed my cheek. "You look beautiful," he said loud enough for people nearby to hear. I smiled. "Thank you." He took my hand, led me to the center table, pulled out my chair like a gentleman. For the next hour, we played our parts. We ate dinner. We laughed at jokes. We acted like the perfect couple. My heart was pounding so hard I thought people could hear it. At 8:30, Andrew stood up. He tapped a champagne glass with a fork. The room fell silent. "Everyone, can I have your attention, please?" His voice was confident, commanding. He picked up the microphone. "Thank you all for coming tonight to celebrate Emily's 35th birthday. It means so much to both of us to have you here." Applause. Smiles. People raised their glasses. Andrew looked at me. His expression shifted, became serious. "I want to be honest with all of you tonight, about where I am in my life, about what I need." The room got quieter. People leaned forward. "Emily is a good person, a good mother. But let's be honest, she's a lab technician. She makes $68,000 a year running tests. She's never wanted more than that, never aspired to anything greater." I heard someone gasp, probably Amanda. "Meanwhile, I've worked my way up to senior project manager. I make $135,000 a year. I support this family. I provide for these children." He gestured to Lucas and Ava. They sat up straighter, proud of their father. "And I've realized something. We want different things. I need a partner who matches my ambition, who understands what it takes to succeed, who doesn't just settle." The word hung in the air like poison. Andrew reached into his jacket pocket. He pulled out an envelope. "So tonight I'm going to be honest, in front of all of you, because I think Emily deserves honesty." He walked over to me. He held out the envelope. "Emily, I want a divorce." The room exploded. Gasps, murmurs. Someone dropped a glass. I stared at the envelope. My hands were shaking, not from fear, from rage, from anticipation. I took it. I opened it slowly. Inside, petition for dissolution of marriage. Andrew James Sullivan versus Emily Rose Carter Sullivan. I looked up at him. He was watching me with something like satisfaction in his eyes. Then Lucas stood up. My 9-year-old son, standing at his table, looking at me with an expression I didn't recognize. "Mom, Dad's right," Lucas said. His voice carried across the silent room. "You never wanted anything more. You're happy just being normal. Dad deserves someone better." My heart shattered. Then Ava stood up, my 6-year-old daughter. "Grandma says Dad takes care of us," Ava said. Her voice was small but certain. "And you just go to work and come home. That's not special." I looked at Richard and Linda. They were nodding, smiling, proud. They'd done this. They'd spent a year poisoning my children against me, teaching them that money was all that mattered, that I was worthless because I didn't have a fancy title. Andrew spread his hands. You see, even the kids understand. Emily, this is what's best for everyone. The room was completely silent. 80 people staring at me, waiting to see if I'd cry, if I'd break, if I'd beg. I slowly stood up. I smoothed my dress. I took a deep breath, and I smiled. You're absolutely right, I said. My voice was calm, steady. This is what's best for everyone. Andrew blinked. He hadn't expected that. I walked toward the microphone. Andrew stepped aside, thinking he'd won. I took the microphone in my hand. I looked out at 80 faces, some sympathetic, some judgmental, some curious. I found Amanda in the crowd. She was crying, but she nodded at me. Go ahead. I found Sharon Davis, my supervisor from the hospital. She looked furious on my behalf. I looked at my children, at Richard and Linda, at Andrew. Before I signed these papers, I said, my voice clear and strong, let me tell you all a story. Andrew frowned. Emily, there's no need. There's every need, I said firmly. You want honesty? Let's have honesty. I turned back to the crowd. In September 2008, when I was 21 years old, my grandparents passed away. They left me an inheritance, $300,000. I heard murmurs, people shifting in their seats. They left it to me with one condition. I couldn't tell Andrew about it, because they'd met him. They'd seen what I was too young to see. They knew he didn't want a partner. He wanted someone he could control, someone small, someone who made him feel big. Andrew's face went pale. Emily, stop. I took that $300,000. I continued, and I invested it. I taught myself about stocks, about cryptocurrency, about building wealth. Over 15 years, through bull markets and crashes, through a pandemic and a crypto boom, I built that money into something extraordinary. I pulled out Diane Walsh's portfolio report. I held it up. As of November 10th, 2023, my investment portfolio is worth $3,247,832.19. The room exploded. People stood up. Someone shouted, "What?" Andrew's face went from pale to gray. That's not possible. It's completely possible and completely documented. I opened the report. I own $1.5 million in dividend stocks, $1 million in cryptocurrency, $700,000 in growth stocks, and it generates $18,000 a month in passive income. More than your entire monthly salary, Andrew. Richard Sullivan stood up. This is absurd. She's lying. I'm not lying. I pulled out my phone. I pulled up my brokerage app. I turned the screen to face the crowd. Real-time account balance $3,251,442.08. It's all real. It's all mine. And under Colorado law, because I inherited it before our marriage and kept it completely separate, you get none of it, Andrew. Not $1. Andrew was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. You thought I was worthless, I said quietly. You thought I was just a lab tech with no ambition. You had an affair for 3 years with Brittany Stevens. Yes, I know about Brittany because you thought you deserved better. I looked at Lucas and Ava. Tears were streaming down my face now, but my voice didn't break. You taught our children to look down on me, to think money is all that matters, to think I was less than. I looked back at Andrew. But I was never less than. I was just invisible to you. I held up the divorce papers. So yes, Andrew, let's get divorced. You can have half the house equity, half the joint savings, about $55,000 total. I smiled, cold, final, and I'll keep my $3.2 million, and my children, and my dignity. The room erupted. People were shouting, crying, laughing. Andrew stood frozen, the microphone dangling from his hand, and I walked off the stage, my head held high, while 80 people watched the invisible woman become unforgettable. The ballroom was chaos. 80 people talking at once. Andrew stood frozen near the microphone, his face the color of ash. I wasn't finished. I held up my hand. The room slowly quieted. I want to tell you all what the last 10 years have been like, I said. My voice was steady, clear. I want you to understand what it feels like to be erased. I looked directly at Richard and Linda Sullivan. Richard, Linda, you've spent 10 years making sure I knew my place. At every family dinner, every holiday, you reminded me that I was just a lab tech, that I wasn't good enough for your son. Linda's face flushed red. You did, I said firmly. At Thanksgiving 2014, you told me it was cute that I had a little job. At Christmas 2016, you asked when I was going to get a real career. At Lucas's 8th birthday, you told him his father was the one who really provided. Richard stood up. Now listen here. No, you listen, I said. You spent a year taking my children every weekend, poisoning them against me, teaching them that money is all that matters. You made my own children look down on me. I looked at Lucas and Ava. They were staring at me with wide eyes. I turned back to Andrew. And you let them do it, because it made you feel powerful. Andrew found his voice. Emily, you're being dramatic. I pulled out my phone. Let's talk about Brittany Stevens. The room went silent. For those who don't know, Brittany Stevens is a 28-year-old sales associate at Andrew's company. They've been having an affair for 3 years. Gasps. Whispers. Someone said, "Oh my God." Andrew's face went white. That's not. It is true. I swiped through my phone. I have text messages going back to 2019, photos, hotel receipts. I hired a private investigator who documented everything. I held up my phone. Andrew and Brittany kissing outside her apartment. Date stamp September 12th, 2023. This was 2 months ago, while I was home with our children. Another photo. Them at a restaurant, his hand on hers. August 23rd, the night you had a late client meeting. Another. Them entering a hotel. July 15th, your business trip to Boulder. I looked at Andrew. Should I keep going? I have 47 more photos, hundreds of text messages, credit card statements for jewelry, flowers, hotel rooms. Sharon Davis stood up. Emily, he's been cheating on you for 3 years. 3 years that I can prove, I said. Possibly longer. Amanda was crying. Several women in the room looked furious. I pulled up a text message, read it aloud. My wife is so boring. She has no ambition. She's content being mediocre. I need someone who gets me. Andrew's voice came out strangled. Where did you... Your phone. You use our anniversary as your passcode. Ironic, isn't it? Someone in the crowd laughed bitterly. I looked out at 80 faces. I want you all to understand something. I kept my inheritance secret for 15 years, not because I'm dishonest, but because my grandparents saw something I was too young to see. I pulled out an old letter. My grandmother wrote this before she died. She said, Emily, we've met Andrew. He's charming, but he's materialistic and status-driven. He doesn't love you for who you are. We're leaving you this money so you'll always have a way out. Don't tell him. Protect yourself. My voice broke slightly. I thought they were wrong, but over the years, I realized they were right. I looked at Andrew. You didn't want a partner. You wanted someone small, someone who made you feel big. I held up the portfolio report. In 2008, I inherited $300,000. I invested it. In 2012, I bought Bitcoin at $10 per coin. In 2017, I sold half at the peak. During COVID, I bought stocks at bargain prices. I opened the report. Over 15 years, I turned $300,000 into $3.2 million. I taught myself everything, alone, at night, while you were with Brittany. I looked at the crowd. I did this while working full-time, while raising 2 children, while being told every day I wasn't good enough. I turned to Lucas and Ava. They were crying. I kept it secret to protect myself, because my grandparents knew what would happen if Andrew found out. I looked back at Andrew, and I was right. The moment you decided I was nothing, you threw me away. I smiled coldly. But you can't destroy someone you never really knew. I pulled out my phone, opened my brokerage app. I turned the screen toward the crowd, held it high. Total portfolio value $3,251,442. 08. The room erupted. People stood. Phones came out. Someone gasped. Richard Sullivan's face turned purple. "This is insane." "It's real," I said. I showed the account details. Vanguard, Fidelity, Coinbase, all in my name. All documented. Marcus Green stood up from the back. He walked to the front, calm and professional. "Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Marcus Green, Mrs. Sullivan's attorney. Everything she's showing you is verified. Under Colorado law, assets acquired before marriage and kept separate are not subject to division." Andrew whispered, "What does that mean?" "It means," Marcus said clearly, "that Emily's $3.2 million portfolio is entirely hers. You have no legal claim to any of it." The room exploded again. I looked at Andrew. "You'll get half the house equity, half the joint savings, about $134,000 total." Andrew's legs seemed to give out. He sat down heavily in the nearest chair. I turned to Lucas and Ava one more time. My babies, who looked so confused and scared. "I love you both," I said softly. "When you're ready to talk, I'll be waiting." I looked at the crowd one final time, at the 80 witnesses who would carry this story forward. "Thank you all for coming to my birthday party," I said. "I think we can all agree it was memorable." A few people laughed nervously. I set the microphone down on the table, and then I paused. I reached into my bag and pulled out my laptop. "Actually," I said, "before I go, let me show you one more thing. Emily just changed the game. Still here, comment 1, so I know." Heads up, this story mixes real financial wisdom with creative storytelling. Some details are dramatized. Not your style. No problem, exit now. But if you want to see the full aftermath, keep watching. Let's continue to the moment everyone's been waiting for. I pulled out my laptop. Amanda had helped me set this up earlier, a wireless connection to the ballroom's projection screen. Within seconds, my laptop screen appeared on the wall behind me. 80 people could now see everything. I opened my investment tracking spreadsheet, the one I'd maintained meticulously for 15 years. "This is my journey," I said, "from inheritance to financial independence." A graph appeared on the screen, a timeline showing portfolio growth over 15 years. 2008, $300,000. Inheritance, 2011, $450,000. Index fund gains 2012, $520,000. Bitcoin purchase, 2017, $2,100,000. Bitcoin peak sale, 2021, $1,950,000. COVID buying opportunity, 2021, $250, 000. Portfolio optimization, 2023, $3,247,832. Current value. The line climbed steadily upward with a few dips, but the trajectory was unmistakable. Exponential growth. People were taking photos, recording videos. In 2008, I was 21 with $300,000 and no financial education, I said. So I taught myself. I read books. I watched YouTube videos. I joined online forums. I clicked to the next slide, a detailed breakdown of my Bitcoin investment. In November 2012, I invested $2,000 in Bitcoin at $10 per coin. Everyone said it was a scam. I glanced at Andrew. "You said I was wasting money, but it wasn't your money, it was mine." The chart showed Bitcoin's price climbing from $10 in 2012 to nearly $60,000 in 2021. $2,000 became worth over $1 million at the peak. I didn't get greedy. I sold half my position, 100 coins, between $15,000 and $18,000 each. I locked in $1.5 million in profits. Someone in the crowd whistled. "Smart." "I learned to take profits," I said. "To diversify, to not put all my eggs in one basket." I clicked to the next slide, my current portfolio allocation. Portfolio breakdown total $3,247,832. Deviniolika dividend stocks index funds vienas milionas penki šimtai dvidešimt trys tūkstančiai keturi šimtai keturiasdešimt vienas doleris. 82 Vanguard S&P 500 Index Dividend Aristocrats, Coca-Cola Johnson and Johnson Procter and Gamble Real Estate Investment Trusts, cryptocurrency, $1,015,290. 37 Bitcoin 100 coins remaining Ethereum staking rewards, stablecoin lending at 8%, APY growth stocks and options, $709 100. 00. Apple, Google, Amazon, Microsoft covered call strategy for monthly income. The numbers filled the screen. Real, documented, undeniable. This portfolio generates $18,000 per month in passive income, I said. That's $216,000 per year. I turned to Andrew, looked him directly in the eyes. More than you make in a year, Andrew, and I earn it without working a single hour. Andrew's face had drained of all color. He looked like he might collapse. Every month, dividends hit my account. Every month, crypto staking rewards come in. Every month, my covered calls generate premium income while I sleep, while I'm at work. While I'm raising our children, I clicked to another slide, a comparison chart. Andrew's income salary, $135,000 per year. Monthly $11,250. Emily's passive income investments, $216,000 per year. Monthly $18,000. I make more than you without lifting a finger, I said quietly. And you thought I had no ambition. The room was dead silent. Richard Sullivan stood up, his face red. This is fraud. She's hiding marital assets. Marcus Green stepped forward, his voice firm and clear. Mr. Sullivan, I assure you, everything here is completely legal. Under Colorado Revised Statutes, Section 14-10-113 property, acquired by gift, bequest, devise, or descent, meaning inheritance is separate property if kept separate from marital assets. He pulled out documentation. Mrs. Carter inherited $300,000 in September 2008, 5 years before she married your son. She maintained completely separate accounts. Not a single dollar was ever commingled with marital funds. She lived on her $68,000 salary and joint account contributions. Marcus looked at Andrew. Your wife could have made your lives more comfortable. She chose not to. That was her legal right. He opened a file folder. Let me clarify what Mr. Sullivan is actually entitled to. He projected a document onto the screen. Marital Asset Division, Cherry Creek House. Market value $580,000. Mortgage balance $340,000. Equity $240,000. Andrew's share $120,000. Joint savings balance $28,400. Andrew's share $14,000. $200 total cash to Andrew, $134. $200 Emily's separate portfolio, $3 $247,832.19. Andrew's claim, $0. The numbers hung on the screen. Brutal. Final. $134,000, Andrew whispered. That's all you contributed to this marriage, I said. Half a house and half the savings. Meanwhile, I built $3.2 million that you never knew existed. I pulled the divorce papers from my purse, the ones Andrew had handed me so triumphantly 30 minutes ago. I took out a pen, signed them, right there in front of 80 witnesses. Then I handed them back to Andrew. Your turn, I said. Andrew stared at the papers. His hands trembled. You can keep the house, I said. Once you refinance and buy out my $120,000 equity, you get the joint savings, your 401k, and you can have Brittany. I smiled, cold, final. I'll take my portfolio, my financial freedom, and when they're ready, my children. My phone buzzed in my hand. I glanced at the screen. A text from Diane Walsh. We'd planned this timing perfectly. Market closed strong. Your portfolio just crossed $3,254,000. Congratulations. I smiled, held up my phone so the crowd could see the notification on the projection screen behind me. Oh, my financial advisor just texted. The portfolio just passed 3.25 million. Market closed well today. Another gasp from the crowd. Someone said, "Jesus Christ." I looked at Lucas and Ava. They sat frozen at their table, tears streaming down their faces. My babies. So confused, so heartbroken. Lucas, Ava. My voice softened. This is what real ambition looks like. Not putting others down, not chasing status. This is 15 years of discipline, of learning when everyone doubts you, of building something that nobody can take away. I looked at Richard and Linda. You spent a decade teaching them that money equals worth. Fine. I have 24 times your son's annual income sitting in investment accounts. Does that make me worthy now? Or will you find another reason to look down on me? Linda's mouth opened, closed. Nothing came out. I looked at Andrew one last time. You wanted someone on your level. You got your divorce, but you don't get my money. You don't get credit for my success. You get nothing except the consequences of your choices. I closed my laptop, disconnected from the projector. Marcus will handle the legal proceedings. I'll be staying with Amanda until I find a place for me and the kids. You can have the house, Andrew. Consider it a parting gift. I picked up my bag, my laptop, my portfolio binder. Lucas, Ava, when you're ready to hear my side of the story, I'll be waiting. I love you both more than you'll ever know. I turned to the crowd one final time, 80 faces staring at me, some shocked, some impressed, some still processing. Thank you all for coming to my 35th birthday party, I said. I think we can agree it was unforgettable. A few people laughed nervously. Amanda was crying and smiling at the same time. I walked toward the ballroom doors. This time, nobody tried to stop me. Behind me, I heard chaos, voices rising. Andrew's parents shouting, Marcus calmly responding to questions. But I didn't look back. I pushed through the doors into the hallway. The cool air hit my face like freedom. My heels clicked on the marble floor as I walked to the elevator. I pressed the button. Waited. The doors opened. I stepped inside. As the doors began to close, I caught one last glimpse of the ballroom. Through the open doors, I could see Andrew sitting in a chair, his head in his hands. Richard and Linda arguing with Marcus. Lucas and Ava huddled together crying, and 80 phones recording every moment. The doors closed. I was alone in the elevator watching my reflection in the polished brass. I didn't go straight to Amanda's. I sat in my car in the Brown Palace parking garage for 20 minutes, my hands gripping the steering wheel, my whole body shaking. Not from fear, from adrenaline. From 15 years of silence, finally breaking free. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Texts, calls, notifications. Sharon Davis. Emily, that was the bravest thing I've ever seen. Call me. Amanda, I'm so proud of you. Come over whenever you're ready. Wine is waiting. Unknown numbers. Reporters, probably. Word was already spreading. I turned off my phone, started the car, and drove. Not to Amanda's. Not yet. I drove to Washington Park, the place where I'd spent so many Saturdays with Lucas and Ava while Andrew played golf. The place where I'd watched other families and felt so alone. I parked, walked to the lake, sat on a bench in the cold November night, and I cried. Not sad tears. Release tears. 15 years of carrying a secret. 15 years of being invisible. 15 years of wondering if I'd made the right choice. I cried until I had nothing left. Then I took a deep breath, looked up at the Denver skyline lit against the night sky. I'd done it. I'd stood up. I'd told the truth. And I'd survived. I drove to Amanda's house around midnight. She opened the door before I even knocked, pulled me into a hug, and didn't let go for a full minute. You did it, she whispered. You actually did it. I did, I said, and I started crying again. We stayed up until 3 in the morning, drinking wine, talking, laughing, processing everything that had happened. Your phone is going to explode tomorrow, Amanda said. This story is going to be everywhere. I know. Are you ready for that? I thought about it. I don't know, but I'm not hiding anymore. I fell asleep on Amanda's couch around 4 a.m. emotionally exhausted, but somehow lighter than I'd felt in years. The next morning, I woke up to 247 text messages and 89 missed calls. The story had gone viral. Someone at the party had recorded my speech, posted it online. Within 12 hours, it had 3 million views. The comments were split. Half the internet was calling me a hero. The other half was calling me vindictive cold, a bad mother for keeping secrets. I didn't care about the second half. Marcus called at 9 a.m. Emily, we need to talk about media requests. CNN wants an interview. Good Morning America, the Denver Post. Everyone wants your story. Not yet, I said. I need to talk to my kids first. Understood. I'll handle the press for now. At 10 a.m., my phone rang. Lucas. My heart stopped. Hello? Mom. His voice was small, scared. Can we talk, me and Ava? Of course, baby. Where are you? At Grandma and Grandpa's, but can you come get us? We want to go home. With you. I was in my car within 5 minutes. I picked them up from Richard and Linda's house in Highlands Ranch. Linda opened the door, her face puffy from crying. Emily, please, can we talk? Not now, I said firmly. I'm here for my children. Lucas and Ava came out with their backpacks. They looked exhausted, like they hadn't slept at all. Richard appeared behind Linda. Emily, you need to understand you were trying to make yourselves feel superior, I said calmly. You taught my children to look down on me. You spent a year poisoning them against their own mother. There's nothing to understand. But we didn't know. You didn't know because you never asked. You assumed. And you taught Lucas and Ava to assume too. That's on you. I looked at my children. Come on, babies. Let's go. They followed me to the car without looking back. We drove in silence for 15 minutes. Then Lucas spoke from the back seat. Mom, I'm sorry. His voice broke. I pulled over into a coffee shop parking lot, turned around to face them. Both of my children were crying. I'm so sorry, Lucas said again. I said terrible things to you. I thought, Grandpa and Grandma said you were lazy, that you didn't care about success, that Dad was the only one who worked hard. I believed them, Ava whispered. I told my friends my dad was important, and you were just normal. My heart shattered and healed at the same time. Come here, I said. They climbed into the front seat. I held them both. Let them cry. Listen to me, I said softly. What Grandma and Grandpa taught you was wrong. Success isn't about titles or salaries. It's not about being louder or more impressive than everyone else. I pulled back so I could look at their faces. Success is about discipline, about learning, about building something that matters to you. I have $3.2 million, yes, but that's not what makes me successful. Then what does, Lucas asked. The fact that I kept going when everyone told me I was nothing. The fact that I learned something new every day for 15 years. The fact that I protected myself and built a future for you two, even when it was hard, even when I was alone. I wiped Ava's tears. Your value as a person doesn't come from how much money you make. It comes from your character, your kindness, your integrity. Dad forgot that, and Grandma and Grandpa never understood it. We were mean to you, Ava sobbed. We said you weren't special. You're 9 years old, baby. You repeated what adults taught you. That's not your fault. But we should have known better, Lucas said. We should have seen. You work so hard. You're always there for us. You never miss anything. And I always will be, I said. That's never going to change. Even though we were horrible to you, Ava asked. Even then, because I'm your mom, and you're my whole world. We sat in that parking lot for an hour, talking, really talking. For the first time in months, maybe years. I explained the inheritance. why I kept it secret, what Grandma and Grandpa had seen in Andrew that I'd been too young to see. I explained the affair, gently, carefully, but honestly. Dad cheated on you. Lucas's face went pale. For 3 years. Yes, and he was going to divorce you in front of everyone to embarrass you. That was his plan. Lucas's jaw tightened. He looked just like my father in that moment. Protective. Angry. That's messed up. It is. I agreed. But it's over now. Are we still going to see Dad? Ava asked quietly. If you want to. He's still your father. But things are going to be different now. Good, Lucas said. Different is good. We got coffee. Hot chocolate for Ava. We sat at a table by the window and talked about what came next. Where are we going to live? Ava asked. I'm looking at houses, somewhere just for us. You'll each have your own room. We'll pick it out together. Can we get a dog? Lucas asked. Then quickly added, sorry, that's probably not. We can get a dog, I said, smiling. A big one. Lucas grinned. Actually grinned. I hadn't seen him smile like that in months. Mom, Ava said, are you really a millionaire? Yes, sweetheart. That's so cool. I laughed. It's not about the money, Ava. It's about the freedom, the choices. I worked hard so you two would have choices, so you'd never have to depend on someone who doesn't respect you. Like Dad didn't respect you, Lucas said. Like Dad didn't respect me. I agreed. We drove to Amanda's house. She'd made lunch. We ate together, me, Amanda, Lucas, and Ava. We watched a movie. We acted like a normal family. For the first time in years, I felt like we were. That night, after the kids fell asleep in Amanda's guest room, I sat on her back porch with a glass of wine. My phone buzzed. A notification. Someone had shared the video of my speech on Twitter. The caption, Lab Tech, reveals $3.2 million portfolio after husband humiliates her at birthday party. This is the best revenge story I've ever seen. 4 million views now, climbing by the second. Comments rolled in, she's my hero. This is what quiet power looks like. Her ex-husband is an idiot. I want to be her when I grow up. Amanda sat down next to me. How are you feeling? Weird, I admitted. Relieved, terrified, free. What happens next? I thought about Andrew, about the house he couldn't afford alone, about Brittany, who probably wasn't as excited about him now that everyone knew he was broke, about Richard and Linda, whose status-obsessed world had just been shattered. In the next 3 months, I said slowly, I'm going to watch my ex-husband's life fall apart. I looked at Amanda, smiled, and mine is just beginning. 3 days after the party, Andrew's world started crumbling. Brittany broke up with him via text message. I know because Lucas told me Andrew had called him crying, asking if he could talk to Mom about relationship advice. The irony wasn't lost on me. What did you tell him? I asked Lucas. I said you were busy. He looked at me seriously. Mom, he sounded really sad. He made his choices, honey. Now he's living with them. By the end of the first week, Andrew had moved out of our Cherry Creek house. He couldn't afford the mortgage alone, not with a $60,000 car payment and the lifestyle he'd been maintaining. He moved back in with Richard and Linda in Highlands Ranch, a 37-year-old man living in his childhood bedroom. Marcus called with updates. Andrew's attorney is pushing for spousal support. I almost laughed. On what grounds? Financial hardship. Says the divorce has left him unable to maintain his standard of living. He makes $135,000. I make $68,000 as a lab tech. He has no legal claim. Exactly what I told his lawyer. They're grasping at straws. What about the house? He wants to keep it. Trying to refinance to buy out your equity, but he's being denied. His debt-to-income ratio is too high. He's been living beyond his means for years. I thought about it. The house where I'd been invisible for 8 years. Let him keep it, I said. Emily, that's $120,000. I don't want it. That house has bad memories. Let him figure it out. I just want this over. You're being incredibly generous. I'm buying peace. He keeps the house, the car, his 401k. I keep my portfolio and primary custody. Clean break. I'll draw up the papers. The settlement was finalized within 2 weeks. Andrew kept the house barely. He had to take out a second mortgage. He'd be house poor for years. He got visitation every other weekend. I got everything that mattered. But the social consequences continued. Andrew's company investigated his relationship with Brittany. He wasn't fired, but he was demoted. His salary dropped from $135,000 back to $115,000. His friends stopped calling. The golf buddies, the dinner party couples, they chose sides. Most chose mine. Sharon Davis told me Andrew had shown up at the hospital. Security escorted him out. He looked terrible, Sharon said. Not my problem, I said. The video kept spreading. 10 million views. News outlets picked it up. Financial podcasts discussed my strategy. I declined every interview request. 1 month after the party, Linda Sullivan showed up at the hospital. I was processing samples when Sharon came to get me. Your former mother-in-law is here. I froze. Tell her I'm busy. I did. She says she'll wait. I finished my work. Made Linda wait 45 minutes. When I came out, she was sitting by the window looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. Emily. She stood quickly. Thank you for seeing me. I'm on my lunch break. You have 10 minutes. We walked outside. I leaned against the building, arms crossed. I wanted to apologize, Linda began, for everything. For the way Richard and I treated you. For teaching my children I was worthless, I interrupted. For poisoning them against me. Her eyes filled with tears. Yes, all of it. We were wrong. We didn't know. You didn't know I had money, I said flatly. That's exactly what this is. You're not sorry for how you treated me. You're sorry because you found out I'm a millionaire and you feel stupid. Linda's face crumpled. That's not fair. Isn't it, be honest? If I'd walked out of that ballroom with nothing, if I really was just a broke lab tech, would you be here? She couldn't answer. You wouldn't, I said. You'd still think I was beneath your family. I never thought. You did. Every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every time you told Lucas and Ava that Daddy was the important one. I stepped closer. You made sure I knew my place. And I let you. Because I thought if I was quiet enough, maybe you'd accept me. Linda was crying. What can I do? You can't fix this, I said simply. What you did to my children, teaching them to look down on their own mother, that's not something you can apologize away. They're my grandchildren. I love them. Then you should have loved me too. I was their mother. I checked my watch. Your 10 minutes are up. Emily, please. I'm not interested in your apology. You're not sorry you hurt me. You're sorry you got caught. I looked at her one more time. If you want a relationship with Lucas and Ava, apologize to them. Teach them the opposite of what you've been teaching. Show them that people have value beyond their bank accounts. I turned toward the door. But as for me, we're done. I walked back inside without looking back. Sharon was waiting. You okay? Yeah, I said. Actually, I'm great. Christmas came and went. I spent it with Lucas, Ava, and Amanda in a rented cabin in the mountains. Andrew had the kids for Christmas Eve. They came back early. Dad cried the whole time, Ava told me quietly. How do you feel about that? I don't know yet. Is that okay? It's completely okay, baby. Andrew called me on New Year's Day. They don't want to spend time with me, he said. His voice was hollow. Give them time, I said. Do you think they'll ever forgive me? Maybe. If you actually change, if you show them you understand what you did wrong. What did I do wrong? Besides the affair. You taught them that value comes from paychecks. You let your parents poison them. You tried to humiliate me publicly. And when it backfired, you played the victim. Silence. If you want your kids back, figure out who you actually are, not who you pretend to be. I hung up. February 14th, 2024, Valentine's Day, 3 months after the birthday party. Marcus called at 8 a.m. It's done. Judge signed the divorce decree. It's final. I sat down in my new apartment. Sunlight streamed through the windows. I'm officially divorced. Officially divorced. Emily Rose Carter. I closed my eyes, felt the weight lift. Thank you, Marcus. At 10 a.m., I drove to the courthouse. I walked up the steps wearing jeans and a sweater. Just me. I stood in line, got my paperwork, walked out with a manila envelope. On the courthouse steps, I paused, looked up at the cold February sky. I pulled out my phone, texted Amanda. It's official. I'm free. Her response, champagne tonight. I walked to my car, looked at the envelope. Emily Rose Carter, dissolution of marriage. Granted. I thought about the scared 21-year-old who'd inherited $300,000. I thought about the invisible woman who'd carried a secret for 15 years. I thought about the mother who'd stood on a stage and told the truth. They were all me, and now I was free. I started the car and drove toward whatever came next. 6 months after the divorce, I woke up in my new apartment with sunlight streaming through the windows and Lucas making pancakes in the kitchen. Mom, I'm trying that compound interest thing with my allowance, he called out. If I save $20 a week and it grows at 7% annually in 10 years, I'll have $13,562, I said, walking into the kitchen. He grinned. You didn't even use a calculator. I've been doing this math for 15 years, kiddo. Ava looked up from her iPad. Mom, my teacher asked if you could come talk to our class about careers, about being a lab tech, about being a millionaire who started with nothing, she said. Her voice was proud. I told everyone my mom is the smartest person I know. My heart swelled. 6 months ago, she'd been ashamed of me. Now she was bragging. I'd love to, I said. Life had changed in ways I never expected. I still worked at the hospital lab, 3 days a week now instead of 5. Sharon had been surprised when I requested reduced hours. You can afford to quit completely, she'd said. Why stay? Because I love this work, I told her. I love knowing that the tests I run help doctors save lives. That matters to me. Money doesn't change that. The other 4 days I studied. Advanced investment strategies, tax optimization, estate planning, real estate investment trusts, options trading strategies beyond covered calls. I turned my spare bedroom into an office, 3 monitors, financial news on one screen, portfolio tracking on another, research on the third. It looked like a day trader's setup, but I wasn't day trading. I was building something bigger. In March, Amanda had an idea. You should share your story, she said over coffee. Not on the news, on your own terms. Start a YouTube channel. About what? About everything. Your investment journey, how you built $3 million from $300,000, financial literacy for women, empowerment through financial independence. I thought about it. I'm not an influencer. You're a woman who figured out how to build wealth while everyone told her she was nothing. There are millions of women who need to hear that story. 2 weeks later, I launched Empowered Investing with Emily. My first video was simple. Me sitting in my home office telling my story. The inheritance, the secrecy, the 15-year journey, the birthday party revelation. I ended with this: you don't need a finance degree. You don't need a high-paying job. You need discipline, patience, and the courage to bet on yourself when nobody else will. The video got 50,000 views in the first week, then 100,000, then 1 million. Comments poured in. I'm a single mom making $45,000 a year. You just inspired me to start investing. I've been hiding money from my emotionally abusive husband. Your story gave me hope. My daughter is in college studying finance because of you. I made more videos. How to start investing with $100. Understanding index funds. The power of compound interest. Bitcoin for beginners. I kept them simple, clear, accessible. No jargon, no gatekeeping. By summer, I had 500,000 subscribers. A literary agent reached out. Have you thought about writing a book about what? Your story. Financial freedom for women, escaping toxic relationships through financial independence. I thought about all the women in the comments, the ones hiding money, the ones afraid to leave, the ones who thought they were trapped. Yes, I said, I'll write it. The book deal came in July, a major publisher, 6 figures advance, from invisible to unstoppable. How I built millions while everyone told me I was nothing. I started writing at night after the kids went to bed. The words poured out, 15 years of silence finally finding voice. Lucas became my assistant. He'd edit my videos, manage my upload schedule, track analytics. Mom, your audience engagement is highest on Tuesdays at 7 p.m., he told me one day. We should post new content then. He was 13 years old, talking like a marketing analyst. When did you learn this stuff? YouTube tutorials, same way you learned investing. I pulled him into a hug. I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of you too, Mom. You're kind of famous now. A kind of, okay, really famous. My friends' moms all follow you. Ava started her own project. At 9 years old, she created a presentation for her class called Why My Mom is My Hero. She showed photos of me at the lab, screenshots of my YouTube channel, a graph of my portfolio growth over 15 years. My mom taught me that success isn't about being loud or impressive. She told her class, it's about working hard even when nobody's watching. It's about being kind even when people are mean to you. And it's about never giving up on yourself. Her teacher sent me the video. I cried watching it. Andrew called one day in August. The kids seem really happy. They are, I said. They talk about you all the time, your YouTube channel, your book, the way you're teaching Lucas about investing. Silence. Then, I'm sorry, Emily, for everything. I see now what I couldn't see then. You were always extraordinary. I just refused to acknowledge it. I appreciate that, I said, but I didn't need you to see it. I needed to see it myself. The kids respect you so much because I earned it. Respect isn't inherited, Andrew. It's earned through actions. After we hung up, I thought about how far I'd come, not just financially, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually. I'd spent so many years making myself small, hiding, apologizing for existing. Now I took up space. I spoke up. I shared my story without shame. In June, Diane Walsh and I met for our quarterly portfolio review. You're at 3.7 million now, she said, showing me the updated numbers. Portfolio value $3,701,445.83. Growth from November, $450,000 in 7 months. The market's been good to you, Diane said. The market rewards patience, I replied. I'm just playing the long game. What's next for you? I thought about it. I want to start a nonprofit. Financial literacy programs for women, especially women in difficult situations. Teach them what I had to teach myself. That's beautiful. And I want to create a scholarship fund for women pursuing STEM careers, women who are told they're not smart enough or ambitious enough. Diane smiled. You're using your wealth to change lives. That's what it's for, isn't it? Money isn't the goal. Freedom is. Impact is. I drove home that day thinking about my grandparents, about the $300,000 they'd left me, about the trust they'd placed in me when I was 21 and clueless. They'd given me more than money. They'd given me a chance, a choice, a way out. Now I was doing the same for others. That night, Lucas came into my office while I was working on the book. Mom, I've been thinking. About what? About Dad. And Grandma and Grandpa, about how they treated you. I turned to face him. He looked serious, older than 13. I don't want to be like that, he said. I don't want to judge people by their jobs or their money. I want to see people for who they really are. I pulled him close. That's the best thing you could have learned from all of this. You could have been angry, you could have been mean, but you weren't. Being hurt doesn't give you permission to hurt others, I said. That's an important lesson, Lucas. I'm going to remember that. Later, after both kids were asleep, I sat on my balcony with a glass of wine. The Denver skyline glittered in the distance. My phone buzzed, a notification from my brokerage app. Portfolio update $3,704,228.19. $3.7 million. Built from $300,000 over 15 years. But the number didn't make me smile. What made me smile was the comment I'd received on my latest YouTube video. I'm a 28-year-old teacher making $42,000 a year. I just opened my first investment account because of you. I invested $500. It's not much, but it's a start. Thank you for showing me I don't have to stay small. That was worth more than any dollar amount. I thought about the invisible woman I'd been. The one who'd sat at family dinners and said nothing while they tore her down. The one who'd hidden her success because she was afraid of what it would cost her. She was gone now. In her place was someone who spoke up, who shared her story, who helped others find their own power. I pulled out my journal, wrote at the top of a new page, "The best part about building wealth isn't the money. It's watching my children understand what real success means. It's seeing women in my comments find courage. It's knowing that my story, the one I kept secret for so long, is changing lives." I closed the journal, looked out at the city, $3.7 million, 500,000 YouTube subscribers, a book deal, a nonprofit in the works. But more than any of that, I had my voice back, my power back, my life back. And that was priceless. November 15th, 2024, my 36th birthday, 1 year since the night that changed everything. But this year, there was no ballroom, no crystal chandeliers, no 80 witnesses, just Amanda's backyard, string lights hanging from the trees, a small table with homemade lasagna, 6 people who actually mattered, Amanda and her partner Sarah, Sharon Davis from the hospital, Marcus Green, and Lucas and Ava. That was it. That was my party. And it was perfect. Speech, Amanda called out, raising her wine glass. I stood up laughing. I didn't prepare anything. Just tell us how you're doing, Sharon said. Really doing. I looked around the table, at these people who'd stood by me, who'd seen me at my lowest and helped lift me up. A year ago tonight, I stood in a ballroom and told the truth for the first time in 15 years. I thought it would destroy me. I thought I'd lose everything. I looked at Lucas and Ava. They were smiling at me. But I didn't lose anything that mattered. I lost a husband who never saw me. I lost in-laws who never respected me. I lost a house full of bad memories. I raised my glass, and I gained everything. My voice, my power, my children's respect, my freedom. To freedom. Everyone echoed. We ate. We laughed. We told stories. Lucas showed everyone the investment portfolio he'd built with his allowance, $800 now. Compound interest is real people, he said seriously, and everyone laughed. Ava showed us her art project, a painting of me at my desk with the caption, "My mom, the bravest person I know." I cried. Again. Around 9 p.m., after everyone had left and the kids were getting ready for bed, I stood on my balcony. The Denver skyline spread out before me, lights twinkling in the November darkness. My phone buzzed. An email from my publisher. Contract finalized. Advance deposited $250,000. Congratulations, Emily. The world needs your story. $250,000 for telling my story, for helping other women find their way out of darkness. My grandparents had left me $300,000. I'd turned it into nearly $4 million, and now my story was worth $250,000 more. But the money wasn't what made me smile. What made me smile was the second email, from a woman named Jennifer in Ohio. Dear Emily, I watched your YouTube videos for 6 months. Yesterday I left my emotionally abusive husband. I had $12,000 saved that he didn't know about money I'd been hiding for 3 years. Your story gave me the courage to use it. I'm staying with my sister. I'm scared, but I'm free. Thank you for showing me it was possible. I read it twice. Then I replied immediately. Jennifer, you are so brave. That $12,000 is your seed money. Invest it wisely. Grow it. Protect it. Build your future. I'm so proud of you. You've got this. I put my phone down, looked out at the city. 1 year ago, I'd been invisible, erased, small. Now I had a platform, a voice, a purpose. Behind me, footsteps. Ava appeared in her pajamas. "Mom, can I sleep with you tonight?" "Of course, baby." She climbed onto my lap. We sat together looking at the lights. "Are you happy, Mom?" she asked quietly. "Yes, sweetheart, I really am." "Good, because you deserve to be happy." I held her tighter. "So do you, Ava, so do you." Lucas joined us a few minutes later, my 13-year-old son getting too big for cuddling but doing it anyway. We sat there together, the three of us, watching the city. I thought about Andrew alone in that big house in Cherry Creek, probably scrolling through social media, seeing my success, feeling his failure. I thought about Richard and Linda, whose grandchildren barely talked to them anymore, whose granddaughter had told them she didn't want to visit until they apologized properly. I thought about everyone who'd looked down on me, who'd told me I was nothing, and I realized something. I'd forgiven them. Not because they deserved it, but because holding on to anger was like drinking poison and expecting them to die. They'd taught me what not to be, what not to value, what not to accept, and in doing so, they'd made me stronger. My phone buzzed again. A text from Diane Walsh. "Market update your portfolio just crossed $3.75 million. Happy birthday, Emily. You've built something extraordinary." $3.75 million, but the number didn't define me anymore. What defined me was this sitting on my balcony with my children knowing I'd chosen truth over comfort, knowing I'd chosen myself when everyone else told me to stay small. "Mom," Lucas asked, "what are you thinking about?" I kissed the top of his head. "I'm thinking about how a year ago I was terrified of telling the truth, and now I can't imagine living any other way. The truth is always better," Ava said wisely, "even when it's scary. Especially when it's scary." I agreed. We stayed there until both kids fell asleep on my lap. Then I carried them to bed, Ava first, then Lucas, who was getting too heavy for me to carry much longer. I stood in the doorway of their rooms watching them sleep. These were the people I'd protected. The reason I'd built my empire in secret. The reason I'd endured years of invisibility. And now they saw me. Really saw me. That was worth more than all the money in the world. I went back to the balcony one last time, raised my wine glass to the Denver skyline. "To 36, I whispered. "To truth, to freedom, to never being invisible again." I drank. The night was cold, but I wasn't. I was warm. I was whole. I was free. And tomorrow I'd wake up and do it all over again. Not for the money. Not for the fame, but for the woman who'd emailed me from Ohio, for the single mom who'd opened her first investment account, for the daughter who'd one day read my book and realized she didn't have to settle, for every woman who'd ever been called just anything, for every person who'd been told they were nothing and was building something anyway. That was my purpose now. The invisible woman had become visible. Not by shouting louder than everyone else, but by refusing to stay silent about who she'd been all along, and tomorrow I'd help someone else do the same. That was enough. That was everything. People ask me if I regret it, the marriage, the secrets, the years of silence. I don't. I don't regret marrying Andrew, because without him, I wouldn't have Lucas and Ava. My children are the best thing I've ever created, worth every painful moment. Worth every tear, worth every sleepless night wondering if I was making the right choices. When I look at Lucas, I see a young man learning that respect comes from character, not paychecks. When I look at Ava, I see a girl growing up knowing her worth isn't tied to anyone else's opinion of her. That's worth the decade of pain. I don't regret keeping the inheritance secret either. People tell me I should have been honest from the start, that secrets are toxic, that transparency is always better, but they're wrong. That secret was a gift, not just from my grandparents, but to myself. It showed me who people really were. When they thought I had nothing, they showed their true faces, Richard and Linda's contempt, Andrew's condescension, the way his colleagues looked through me at company parties, the way his parents introduced me as Andrew's wife instead of using my name, even my own children parroting the values they'd been taught that daddy was important and mommy was just there. If I'd revealed the money earlier, everything would have been different. They would have treated me better, been nicer, more respectful, but I'd never know if they respected me or just my bank account. The secret was a mirror. It reflected everyone's true character back at them, including my own, and what I learned about myself surprised me. I learned I was stronger than I thought, more patient, more strategic, more capable of enduring injustice without becoming bitter, more able to build something extraordinary while everyone told me I was ordinary. I learned I could carry the weight of a massive secret for 15 years without breaking. That takes a kind of strength people don't see, don't appreciate, don't even recognize as strength. That's a gift. The biggest lesson: self-worth cannot come from external validation. For 10 years, I let other people define my value. Richard and Linda told me I wasn't good enough for their son. Andrew told me I lacked ambition. His colleagues ignored me. Even my children told me I wasn't special, and I believed them. I internalized their words. I made myself smaller. I apologized for taking up space. I thought if I was just quiet enough, agreeable enough, invisible enough, maybe they'd love me. But here's the truth. I learned the hard way. You cannot earn love from people who've decided you're worthless. You cannot prove yourself to people who refuse to see you. You cannot make someone respect you if they've already decided you don't deserve it. The only person who needs to believe in your worth is you. Money didn't change me. I was always capable, always intelligent, always disciplined, always strategic. What money gave me was options. The courage to say no, the freedom to walk away, the power to stop accepting crumbs when I deserved the whole meal. $3.75 million didn't make me valuable. I was always valuable. The money just made it impossible for them to pretend I wasn't. It gave me a platform, a megaphone, a way to force them to see what they'd been refusing to acknowledge for a decade. People misunderstand what happened at that birthday party. They think it was revenge. Sweet, satisfying revenge against a cheating husband and toxic in-laws. It wasn't revenge. It was revelation. I didn't destroy Andrew. I simply stopped protecting him from the consequences of his own choices. I stopped hiding my light so he could shine brighter. I stopped making myself small so he could feel big. I stopped lying to protect his ego. That's not revenge. That's self-respect. Another crucial lesson: silence is not weakness. For 15 years, I was quiet. People assumed that meant I was passive, submissive, lacking backbone, a doormat. They were wrong. Silence is strategic. It gives you time to observe, to learn, to study your opponents, to understand the battlefield before you engage. While they were talking, I was working. While they were performing for social media, I was studying investment strategies. While they were judging me, I was becoming someone they could never imagine. Loud people get attention. Quiet people get results. I learned that from my grandfather, the prosecutor. He used to say, let them talk, let them underestimate you. And when the time is right, present your evidence and watch them realize they never knew who they were dealing with. That's exactly what I did. Quiet people aren't weak. We're just choosing our battles carefully. We're gathering information, building strength, preparing for the moment when our silence ends and our actions speak louder than any words could. And when we finally speak, the world listens. I think about the women who message me every day, the ones hiding money from abusive partners, the ones afraid to leave because they don't think they can survive alone, the ones who've been told they're nothing so many times they've started to believe it. I tell them what I wish someone had told me: you don't need permission to protect yourself. You don't need permission to build a future. You don't need permission to become financially independent. Start small, $5, $10, whatever you can hide safely. Open a separate account. Use a friend's address for the statements. Invest in index funds. Watch it grow. That money isn't just dollars and cents. It's options. It's courage. It's the difference between staying trapped and walking free. My grandparents understood this. That's why they gave me the inheritance in secret with the condition that Andrew never know. They knew financial independence would give me choices Andrew never could. They knew that money is power, and they wanted me to have power even if I didn't use it right away. They were right. I also learned about forgiveness, real forgiveness, not the performative kind where you pretend everything's okay, the kind where you release the poison of bitterness because carrying it hurts you more than it hurts them. I forgave Andrew, not because he deserved it, but because anger was exhausting. Holding grudges was exhausting. Constantly reliving the betrayal was exhausting. Imagining all the ways I could hurt him back was exhausting. Forgiveness wasn't for him. It was for me. It didn't mean reconciliation. It didn't mean forgetting. It didn't mean pretending he hadn't hurt me. It meant accepting that he showed me who he was, believing him, and moving forward anyway. It meant letting go of the fantasy that he'd ever give me the apology I deserved, the remorse I wanted, the understanding I craved. He couldn't give me those things, and waiting for them was keeping me stuck. So I forgave him, and I moved on. Finally, the most important lesson: respect is earned, not inherited, not bought, not demanded, earned. Lucas and Ava learned this the hard way. They'd been taught that Andrew's income made him valuable, and my little job made me less than. That money equals worth. That titles matter more than character. They learned that respect based on money is hollow, fragile, conditional. The moment Andrew lost his status, got demoted, moved back in with his parents, became the subject of gossip, people stopped respecting him because their respect was never real. It was transactional. Real respect comes from character, from integrity, from how you treat people when you have nothing to gain from them. Andrew had money and status, but he lied and cheated and humiliated me publicly. He let his parents poison his children against their mother. He chose ego over family. That's not respectable. That's pathetic. I had money too, more than he knew, but I also had discipline, patience, and the strength to endure years of contempt without becoming cruel myself. I raised my children alone while he played golf. I worked through a pandemic while he complained about Zoom fatigue. I built an empire in secret while he spent money he didn't have to impress people who didn't care. That's what earned my children's respect, not the portfolio, the character. Looking back now, 1 year later, I wouldn't change anything. Every painful moment taught me something. Every insult made me stronger. Every time I stayed silent, I was building something they couldn't see. Every night I cried myself to sleep, I woke up the next morning and chose to keep going. That's resilience. That's strength. That's power. And when I finally spoke, when I finally revealed who I'd been all along, I changed my life. And maybe I helped change someone else's too. That's worth everything. If you're reading this, maybe you see yourself in my story. Maybe you're the woman working a job people call just a job. The nurse, the teacher, the administrative assistant, the retail manager, the lab tech, the social worker. Maybe people look down on you. Maybe your own family tells you that you lack ambition, that you're settling, that you could be more if you just tried harder. Maybe your spouse introduces you as just a teacher with that apologetic tone, like your work is something to be excused. Maybe your in-laws ask when you're going to get a real career. Or maybe your own children have started repeating what they hear, that other people's parents have important jobs, and you don't. Maybe you've started to believe it yourself. Let me tell you something that took me 15 years to learn. You are never just anything. You are not just a teacher. You are shaping the next generation. You are the reason a child learns to read, to think critically, to believe in themselves. You are not just a nurse. You are saving lives. You are holding someone's hand when they're terrified. You are a hero in Scrubs. You are not just whatever diminishing label they've given you. You are a person with inherent value regardless of your title or your paycheck. Don't let anyone make you feel small. Not your spouse, not your in-laws, not society, not even your own doubts. Your worth is not determined by your income. Your worth is inherent. It exists because you exist. I want to leave you with 5 lessons I learned the hard way. Lesson 1. Financial independence is freedom. You don't need millions to be free. You need enough to have options, enough to say no to people who disrespect you, enough to walk away from situations that hurt you. For me, that started with $300,000. But for you, it might start with $300 or $30. The number doesn't matter. The principle does. Start small. $5 a week, $10 a month. Whatever you can manage. Put it somewhere safe, a separate account, in your name only. Invest it in index funds, in dividend stocks, in something that grows while you sleep. That money is your freedom fund, your courage account, your escape hatch. Watch it grow. $10 becomes $100. $100 becomes $1,000. $1,000 becomes $10,000. And one day when you need it, when someone crosses a line, when you've had enough, when you're ready to choose yourself, that money will be there, giving you options, giving you power, giving you freedom. Lesson 2. Self-respect comes first. This is the hardest lesson, the one I fought against for years. Before you can demand respect from others, you must respect yourself. That means setting boundaries, saying no, walking away from people who diminish you. It means understanding that you deserve to be treated well, not because you're rich or successful or impressive, but because you're human. For years, I thought I had to earn respect. I had to be agreeable enough, helpful enough, quiet enough, small enough. I was wrong. Respect should be the default, not something you beg for, not something you earn through self-erasure. If someone treats you poorly, that's a reflection of their character, not your worth. Stop waiting for permission to value yourself. Stop waiting for someone to tell you that you matter. Give it to yourself right now, today, this moment. Look in the mirror and say, I deserve to be treated well. I will not accept less than that anymore. Then live it, enforce it. Walk away from anyone who can't meet that basic standard. Lesson 3. Silence is not weakness. I was silent for 15 years. People thought that meant I was weak, passive, defeated. They were wrong. Silence gave me time to observe, to learn, to build, to become someone they never imagined I could be. Silence was strategic. It was powerful. It was the storm gathering before it breaks. Don't confuse quiet with powerless. Some of the strongest people I know are the ones who speak less and build more. Loud people get attention. Quiet people get results. But here's the important part. Strategic silence is a choice. It's not the same as being silenced. It's not the same as swallowing your voice because you're afraid. Strategic silence means you're choosing when to speak. You're waiting for the right moment. You're gathering your evidence. And when you finally do speak, make it count. Make it undeniable. Make it unforgettable. Lesson 4. Money is a tool, not a trophy. I have $3.75 million. That's a fact. But that's not what makes me successful. That's not what makes me happy. What makes me successful is that I use that money to build a life of freedom, to help my children understand real values, to create opportunities for other women. Money bought me options. It bought me the courage to leave. It bought me the platform to share my story. That's what money is for. Not to impress people, not to win some imaginary competition, not to prove you're better than someone else. Money is a tool. Use it wisely. Use it for good. Use it to build the life you want, not to perform for people whose opinions don't matter. The most miserable people I know are wealthy. They have money but no peace, no purpose, no genuine relationships. The happiest people I know have enough to live comfortably, enough to help others, enough to not worry about survival. Find your enough, build toward it, and when you get there, use it to create something meaningful. Lesson 5. Teach your children values, not valuations. This is my biggest regret, that my children spent years believing their worth came from their father's income, that people with important jobs mattered more than people with regular jobs. I stayed quiet while Richard and Linda taught them these toxic values. I didn't fight back when Andrew reinforced the idea that he was important and I was just there. But I was actually allowing them to learn a lie, a destructive lie. Teach your children that character matters more than credentials, that kindness matters more than income, that how you treat people when you have nothing to gain from them, that's what defines you. Teach them that the janitor deserves the same respect as the CEO, that the grocery store clerk is as valuable as the doctor. Don't let them grow up thinking money equals worth. Let them grow up knowing that integrity, compassion, and courage are what makes someone valuable. Because here's what happened when Lucas and Ava finally understood they lost respect for their father. Not because he lost money, but because they realized he'd always valued the wrong things. And they gained respect for me, not because I had money, but because I'd endured disrespect with grace, because I'd built something meaningful, because I'd chosen truth over comfort. To the women hiding money from abusive partners, I see you. Keep going. Every dollar you save is a step toward freedom. Be safe, be smart, and know that one day you'll use that money to walk free. To the single mothers working 2 jobs and wondering if it's worth it, it is. Your children might not understand now, but someday they will. You're teaching them resilience. To the women who've been told they're not enough, you are enough. You've always been enough. The people who told you otherwise were wrong. To the lab techs, the teachers, the nurses, the administrative assistants, the retail workers, the caregivers, you are extraordinary. You are building the world. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise. And finally, to anyone who's ever felt invisible, you're not invisible. You're just surrounded by people who refuse to see you. Find the people who do see you, who value you, who celebrate you. And if you can't find them, become so undeniably yourself that they can't look away. The best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's living well. It's knowing your worth. It's building something nobody can take from you. Not money, not status, not material possessions, self-respect. That's the one thing nobody can give you, and nobody can take away. You have to build it yourself, inside yourself, for yourself. I spent 15 years building financial wealth in secret. 300,000 became 3.75 million. But the real wealth I built was self-respect, self-knowledge, the understanding that I was valuable all along. And that's the fortune I'll carry for the rest of my life. To everyone reading this, everyone who sees themselves in my story, you are not just anything. You are whole. You are enough. You are valuable. You always have been. The people who made you feel small were wrong, and their wrongness doesn't change your truth. Now go build something beautiful, something meaningful, something that reflects who you really are. Not for them, for you. Because you deserve it. You've always deserved it, and it's time you believed that. Emily Carter, Denver, Colorado, November 2024. Looking back, my story isn't about family revenge, though many see it that way. When I revealed my fortune at that party, I wasn't seeking family revenge. I was seeking truth and self-respect. Yes, the family betrayal hurt deeply. Richard and Linda's decade of contempt. Andrew's affair, the way they poisoned my children against me. That family betrayal taught me painful lessons about human nature. But here's my advice. Don't be like me. Don't wait 15 years to speak up. Don't let silence become your prison. 3 lessons I learned the hard way. First, financial independence is freedom. Start small, $5, $10, but start. That money becomes your escape route when you need it most. Second, self-respect cannot wait for permission. I waited for Andrew's family to accept me. I waited for validation that never came. God knows I needed protection, but God also wanted me to value myself sooner. God gives us strength to endure, yes, but God also expects us to stand up for ourselves. Third, teach your children values, not valuations. The family betrayal I experienced came partly because my children learned to measure worth by paychecks. Don't let that happen to your family. Financial independence isn't about family revenge. It's about having choices, about never being trapped by someone else's cruelty. Family betrayal reveals character, both theirs and yours. What matters is who you become after. I chose truth. I chose freedom. I chose to help others find theirs. You can too. I'm grateful you stayed with me until the end. If Emily's journey spoke to you or opened your eyes to something important, drop a comment below. I personally read each one. If you know someone who needs this message about standing up for themselves and building financial security, please share this story with them. And subscribe for more powerful stories that educate and inspire. Your presence here matters.